Welcome to A+ Cichlids. Today we're going to talk about water changes. So water changes are something that pretty much everyone has their own opinion on. So I'm going to kind of clear some of these opinions up and kind of show you what has been successful for me. So I figured you guys can watch my discus swim around while I do this video, something a little bit different today. So looking at water changes. So first off, how to do water changes. So a lot of people buy pythons. It's kind of like this gravel vac type system where one end you can start the siphon with using your water source. It'll actually create a siphon for you, and then the other end goes inside your aquarium, and basically it starts a siphon. But in this system you're wasting water just to siphon water, so it's, in my opinion, it's wasteful. So the way that I typically do water changes is I always use a water pump. So you can buy submergible water pumps off Amazon. You can get a mid-grade one, they're around $20. So you also have to buy a hose. Typically you want to come up with a plan on how to get your water out of the aquarium and to the outside area. So sometimes you can use a window or you can go out a door. So based off of the distance it is from your aquarium, you'll have to kind of figure out what size hose you'll need, whether you need a 50-foot or a 25-foot. So that's something to think about if you do use a water pump. And then also an extension cord. Most likely need an extension cord in order to turn it on. But the water pump is also a lot more efficient. You're going to be able to send water out of your aquarium a lot faster than a gravity feed siphon. So just something to think about as far as when you're doing the water changes, a lot faster. So when I do a water change on my 210, I use a 1800 gallon an hour pump, and then it's a 1-inch inner diameter hose, and it's 50 foot long. So it's very fast to do a large volume of water. The part that takes longer is filling it back up. So filling your tanks back up, I recommend using kind of like a garden hose connection and a garden hose deal. So your outside water spigots for garden hoses actually move a larger volume of water from your house. So if you use those, you can actually fill up your tanks faster than using like a sink or hand washing sink that's inside. So it's always recommended to use the outdoor garden hose spigot. And also if you have more than one, you can actually use two different ones and two different hoses, and you can actually fill up twice as fast. So using that is probably the fastest way to do water changes. And now kind of looking at when to do water changes and how often and how much. So the biggest thing you want to look at is if you buy a testing kit and you can test your nitrate levels and understanding how much nitrate is actually being built up inside the aquarium. So nitrate is also something that a lot of people think is very dangerous to the fish, and people have different recommendations on how much nitrate you can build up. So if you're keeping cichlids, most cichlids are pretty tough, meaning they can handle up to 200 ppm nitrate, but you have to remember that you don't want to have it a prolonged period at 200 ppm. So typically it'll just be towards the end of the duration of time, maybe the last 1 to 2 days where they're in that range right before the water change. So just always think that when you do a water change, you're just diluting nitrate, you're not removing it. So you basically need to test your water and understand how much nitrate is in your water after you do your water change, and then also how much nitrate is building up over what duration of time. Because everybody has a different size aquarium. They have a different stocking level, meaning the amount of fish and the size of fish that are in the aquarium and how dirty the fish are. So if you have like 2 Oscars in a 75 gallon aquarium, Oscars are very dirty fish and they're going to build up a lot of nitrate very quickly. But then if you have a 75 gallon with maybe 50 tetras, it's not going to build up as fast because they're smaller fish and they're not going to eat as much and things like that. So you're just going to have to kind of look at your situation and test your water and understand how much nitrate you're building up in what duration of time. You know, some people may have 100 ppm in a total of 7 days. Some people may have 200 ppm in 7 days. So just kind of have an understanding of where you're at. And you can also look at ways to reduce your nitrate buildup, and that's going to be the feeding and your stocking level. So if you're feeding consistently twice a day, 3 times a day, and you're feeding more than they're eating in 30 seconds, you're going to have leftover food and things like that, and that can cause nitrate buildups. You can also reduce the amount of feedings and kind of just evaluate the situation that you're in with feeding. And then also looking at how much water are you changing when you do water changes. So a lot of fish can handle large water changes. So I have a few African cichlid tanks. They'll reach 200 ppm about 12 to 13 days after a water change. And I do a 90% water change. And basically those fish have grown from small juveniles to full adults now. And it's been a course of about a year and a half, and I haven't had any deaths or loss or anything like that. And that aquarium reaches 200 ppm towards the last 2 days of its cycle. So that just kind of shows you that you can get to that high nitrate levels, but you just don't want to be at that ppm for that long of a time period. So basically look at where your ppm is at for nitrate, and then how long until it reaches that high number. And then look at, after doing a water change, whatever percentage you take out, just kind of evaluate once it's filled back up where your nitrate's at, and understand, do you need to increase the percentage, or do you need to do more frequently, or what would you like to do to keep those nitrate levels low. Because basically the purpose of a water change is just to pull out that nitrate and to provide water that is nitrate free. So just keep an eye on where your levels are at and make a decision based off there. And also pick up a water pump off Amazon and get a hose, so that way your life's a lot easier when it comes to water changes. In order to enjoy the hobby, we cannot be slaves to the hobby, meaning we're constantly doing maintenance, constantly doing work. Instead, focus on easier and more efficient methods to do the work that's required and spend more time enjoying. And make sure you check us out on YouTube, Facebook, eBay. We have fish for sale. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to leave them below, and I'll get to them as soon as I can. Hope all of you guys have a good day. Thank you.